Okay guys, so you're getting ready to do your first actual build that has programming involved, and that's the spinning sign. These are the elements that you will need to make it go. So aside from the build itself, you're going to have 2 bump switches, you're going to have a controller, you're going to have the battery for the controller, and you're going to have a motor. Now, I just want to point a couple things out before I get into more detail about how to plug this stuff in and how to set up the software for it. So please notice that as far as the bump switches go, and any 3-wire item, those are going to go in the bottom of the controller. And please notice that they're set up alphabetically A through H. Okay, I'll show you how to plug those in just a moment. Then on the top of the controller, please notice that they're numbered, and there's numbers on both sides. On this side, we've got 1 through 10, and on this side, we've got 11 through 20. Okay, and then the top, the battery cable plugs in, and then the USB plugs in right there, which plugs into the computer. Okay? All right, so how these plug in is quite simple. These are called smart cables, and if you're old like me, you might remember these are the cables that they used to, at least the connectors, looked a lot like what used to go into telephones when you had a telephone plugged into your wall. In the old days, and they go in only one way, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It just pops right in, and that little piece of plastic holds it in place. Okay, kind of hard to do with one hand, but you'll be doing it with 2 hands. Okay, now any 3-wire item plugs in. Pull this out. Please notice that there's a certain shape to this, okay? And it corresponds to the shape that you see there. It's got it's a rectangle, but it has on the top a little sort of sliver of plastic poking out. And you just have to line those up, and that's how they go in. You just gotta push them in, okay? All right, now, also, the way this plugs in over here, get this out of the way. Please notice that the USB connector, it's a mini USB, it only goes in one way. There's a flat bottom and then a rounded top. You notice that's what the port looks like there too. So don't try to shove this in there the wrong way. Make sure it's lined up correctly. Flat part down, okay? And then you just push it in, okay? Again, tough to do with one hand, but I think you get the message. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how these connections will be set up in the actual software. Okay, because it takes both. You can't just do the hardware and you can't just do the software. They work together. Okay. Okay guys, this is a video to show you how to set up your controller, your V5 controller, and the inputs to it. So we've already looked at the hardware and where things go. Now I'm going to walk you through how to set up the software. Now, you're going to need to do this for yourself, so I have not created a file for you. So the first thing you need to do is double click on the program, open it up. Now please notice that it's called VEX Code Project and there's nothing in there. This hasn't been saved yet. So first thing that we're going to want to do is give this a name, okay? So let's call this task 1 spinning sign, because that's what this project is. I'm going to click save. Now it's asking us, all right, well, where do you want to save it? We need to go to our 320 drive. So let's scroll down, click on this PC. Now you're going to find your network drive, your 320 drive. Now once again, just to remind you, teachers, we have our names, but you students will be seeing a 320 number. Okay, so you double click on that, double click on My Robotics, double click on Student Files, and then Automation through Programming. This is where we're going to want to put this. So click Save, and now it's been saved there. Now, I'm not going over how to put the code in. This is about setting up the file to handle the controller. So what you need to do is come over to this button right here. It's Devices. Click on that. Click Add Device. And please notice that it gives you some options. Now, we are going to have a motor, so a V5 motor, so we'll click Motor. Now, they're asking for a port. Now remember, on the top of the controller, we've got ports 1 through 10 on one side and 10 through 20 on the other. And it's really pretty much your choice which port you plug it into, okay? I'm plugging it into port 11 because that's what I have it in right now. And then I'm just going to rename this. I'm going to call this Sine Motor because it's the motor that turns the sine. And then I'm going to keep all this stuff as it is and then click Done. And please notice we now have a sine motor in here, and then we have some motor options over here. They're customized for our particular name, sine motor. All right. Now you may remember for this project we also have 2 bump switches. So I'm going to go to Add Device. Now, these bump switches that we have are 3-wire bump switches. They're from the old VEX kits, and this allows us to use those, but you need to know how to find them. So come down to 3-wire, click on 3-wire, and notice that it has all these parts listed right here. So it calls them bumpers, so we're going to click on Bumper. Now, you may remember I mentioned that the 3-wire plugins are along the bottom of the controller, and they are their choices are A through H. So I'm going to select A for this first one, and I know they call them bumper. I'm used to calling them bump switch. So I'm going to say bump switch. Whoops. Bump switch 1. Or you don't have to call it bump switch 1. You can call it bump switch on, bump switch off. I'm just calling it bump switch 1. So we got bump switch 1 right there. Now we need a second device. This is also a 3-wire bump switch. So I'm going to put this one in B, and I'll call this one bump switch 2. And then click Done. And I just realized I spelled motor wrong. I'm going to fix that. Okay. And that is how you set up your file. Then I'm going to click File Save so that it remembers it, and then you can start the coding process. Okay? That's how you set up hardware. That's how you set up the software. It'll be the same for each project going forward. Now, when I mean the same, you're not necessarily going to have the same amount of motors or the same, sensors or switches, but this is how, no matter what you're setting up, this is how you would do it. So for instance, a 3-wire, if I wanted to set up a limit switch, I would do the same process except choose limit switch instead of bump switch. If I wanted to set up a line tracker, there's the line tracker. If I wanted to set up the potentiometer, here it is. If I wanted to set up an LED light, here it is. So it's all the options are right here, okay? We could even set up an old motor, the old 393 motors if we wanted to, but we don't need to because we have the new ones. So, all right.